Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Welcome to my monthly Friday Folds class. I'm going to give everybody a few seconds to join me tonight. So tonight I'm going to be using the Dragonfly Dreams stamp set along with the coordinating detailed Dragonfly Thinlits dies. I'm trying to feature some stamp sets from the annual catalog because our occasions catalog doesn't start till January. So I don't want to start showing some of that stuff right off because you guys can't buy it right now. So I'm using the Dragonfly Dreams, and I'm actually going to be creating a long side fold card, and I'm going to show you how to create an envelope to go with it also. So this opens off to the side. It is a long card, but it's the same size as a regular number 10 envelope, a little bit shorter actually. So it should not cost you extra to mail it because it doesn't cost you extra to mail something in an envelope this size. Now let's go over some of the products I'm using. I'm using the Old Olive ink pad. I'm using some pearl jewels. And for cardstock, I'm using Blackberry Bliss scrap. This is for my die cutting. And then for the card base, Blackberry Bliss 11x4. I'm actually using different colors than the card that I made because I'm using the same designer paper but different patterns. So layer number 2 is the So Saffron 3 3/4 by 7 3/4 and 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. The designer paper is 3.5 by 7.5 and 3.5 by 2.5. And we also have another layer 2 inches by 7.5. And then the little white panel that goes on the inside measures 3 1/4 by 2 1/4. Now let me move this aside. And the dies I'm using are the 2 Dragonfly dies. I've also gone ahead and made a bow with the Pear Pizzazz shimmer ribbon. Don't know if that's something you guys can see, but it does shimmer. It's got a little bit of glitter to it. So first thing I'm going to do is bring in my card base. Let me move all, oh, I forgot the 2 little white strips too for the sentiments. These are 1/2 inch wide and I'm going to trim them. So I'm going to start off by scoring at 3 inches. Remember to score and not to cut. That's why I wrote on my blades to remind me which one to use. Now the designer paper I'm using tonight is the Frosted Floral. And I did use that on the card that's already made. I'm using in different patterns for the card I'm making with you. And I'm also using, or actually, I said that wrong. I used that on card number 1. On card number 2, I'm using the Share What You Love. I totally said that wrong. I still have quite a few sheets of this paper. It's beautiful. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm a little rusty. I haven't been on for a week now. Score on the fold. Fold on the score. I said that backwards. I'm going to go ahead and glue the So Saffron. And that goes on the inside. And then the other layer of So Saffron goes on the 3 inch flap. Next, I'm going to glue the designer paper. And when I create an envelope to coordinate for this card, I'm going to use the same paper as this one I'm using right now. So the envelope's actually going to match the card. Okay, there's layer number 3. Next is the long layer that I cut. And again, that's just the reverse side of the flowered page. And that's going to go right in the center. And then I've added just a small layer if somebody wants to write a note. And that kind of peeks out from behind the flap when you lift it up. Just like that. One more layer of designer paper. This one's going to go on the flap in the front. And then I'm going to bring the big shot in so I can cut my dragonflies. Okay, so you can see here that I've used 3 different patterns of designer paper and they all work well together. Now let me bring in the big shot. I'm actually using my precision base plate tonight. And I'm also going to add a layer of wax paper. Now this is for the small dragonfly. Let me move that over just a little. I want to make sure everything's going to fit. Now the wax paper is mostly to help lubricate the die so that the paper, the cardstock will come out easier. And I'm going to run this through a couple times. And you'll see that that cut nicely. Now I'm going to bring in my die brush. And I'm doing this over the die so that the little card guts will fall out. And then we just need to poke a couple holes to get it going. And I usually try to lift up around the end and pull. So see how easy that came out? And then you still have the wax paper that's in here that actually resembles vellum that you could use on a card. Now let me bring in the other dragonfly. And again, I'm just bringing it up through the center of the body and everything comes out nicely. So the wax paper does help. It lubricates the die, especially with the delicate areas around the middle. Now let me bring my card back in. And I'm going to go ahead and glue the butterflies in place. Whoops. I grabbed a bottle that wasn't open yet. I'm just going to add adhesive in the center of the bodies. Press that in place. I can see a little piece of wax paper right here. Next, I'm going to add a pearl jewel in the center of each body. Whoops. That one's alive, it won't come. There it is. So I've got 5 pearl jewels. Now, before I glue the other dragonfly in place, I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping. Carol, you said you avoided using the precision platform because it's bending your plates. Now, I have the opposite happening to me. My plates were being bent so much with the regular platform that I'm finding the precision blades is actually flattening them out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. and stamp each sentiment. Now these say, enjoy your special day to a wonderful friend. Let me go ahead and trim those. Now you could use the tailored tag punch to do this if you're not good at flagging the ends of your banners. Okay, there's one. Hi Brenda, it's so funny to hear you say good morning because it's nighttime here. Okay, now we're going to glue the one that says to a wonderful friend first, and that goes right at the top of the layer number 2 designer paper. The second sentiment I'm gluing down with dimensionals. And then all we have left to do is glue the dragonfly and the ribbon in place. First, I'm going to go ahead and add some pearl jewels to my dragonfly. And I'm actually adding the largest one in the center and 2 littler ones on each side. Isn't that cute? Doesn't that dress that right up? Okay, now I'm going to add some glue to the body. And just slide that right in there. And lastly, I'm going to glue the bow in place. So I added 1 glue dot and then a couple dots of the liquid glue. And that's going to go right there. So let me bring the other card back in so you guys can see both of them. So that was a pretty quick card. Now let's go ahead and do an envelope that the card will fit in. So I'm going to be using my envelope punch board. And I'm bringing in a 12 by 12 designer paper sheet. Now, how I figured out what I needed for an envelope, I measured the card and it measured 4 by 8. So I went down on my listing here, 4 by 8, and it's telling me that I need a piece of cardstock or designer paper that measures 9 5/8 by 9 5/8. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. For those of you that are not good at measuring, 9 1/2 is 9 4/8. So you're going to move over 2 little lines over. So 9 5/8. By 9 5/8. Now, here is the size that I need. My next step that it's telling me is to the score line. The first score line has to be lined up at 3 3/8. Now on the envelope punch board, it's pretty easy because it tells you the measurements right here. So 9 3/8, and I'm going to follow the groove. That's it for measuring. If you don't have one of these, you only measure once. Your next step, you're going to find the score line that you just made. And this little leg right here that sticks out, you line that up with the score line. You're going to do, oh, you know what I'm forgetting too? I'm forgetting to, I forget to punch. When you do one score line, you need to punch also. So let me do that. Okay, so this was line number 2 that I did. I'm going to flip this, line up my little leg, punch, and score. Punch and score. And then you can also use this side to punch. I'm going to round all my corners. Now this is a long envelope, so we're going to have to trim some of these flaps, but I just wanted to show you on a regular envelope, I always round my corners. So now we're going to fold on all of the score lines. And you'll see here how I cut this end off. And on this one, what I did is I folded it. So let me just continue. So I wanted this to be folded over. So I opened my flap and I brought it over right to the score line. Went across. I'm going to glue this down. And now I'm using liquid glue to glue down my two flaps. Okay, see how easy that was? I didn't even have to cut. I just folded it over. Now on this one, it's a tad bit too long. So what I did is I brought in my trimmer and I just lined it up at about 4 1/4. Cut off the flap and it makes a nice finish for your envelope. So now we've got, this one fits that envelope and you've got an envelope that matches your designer paper and that fits perfectly in there. So doesn't that make for a nice envelope that somebody would receive? So that's it for tonight for my Friday folds. Now I will be back on Sunday for my Sunday share. I'll be doing, I think I have 3 projects lined up and that'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So thanks for all the love, everyone. I'm glad you liked my card and I hope to see you again on Sunday. Have a good night.